Bienvenue dans Conversations Rénovation Genève,
A series created by us, Colli Homes, a bilingual contracting company and construction management team in Geneva, Switzerland.
où nous parlons stratégie architecturale et de construction dans tout ce qui a trait à la rénovation résidentielle.
And sometimes things get lost in translation. Okay, so the purpose of why I wanted to put this into a video podcast, is that what it's called? Video podcast?
Yeah, let's call it a video podcast.
Okay, a video podcast.
It's the first one.
Is that you and I have so many discussions. They're usually in front of our children, in cars, and it's really good educational content that we could be sharing. And also the hopes of this is to truly help people who are currently in their journey of either looking for a contract or comparing quotes, and feel like it would be helpful to get support knowing how to make the intelligent decision or the strategic decisions that go along with choosing your contractor.
Yeah, I think you summarized it well. Like the last point is really when you compare is to make a decision on who's going to be your partner in the renovations. So it's really like doing like some kind of dating, like a selecting the person you're going to trust in the process.
So something I wanted to talk about was it's pretty classic, the get 3 quotes and compare 3 quotes. And you can understand because one, it's a huge investment. It has repercussions. It can either give you great return and greater satisfaction with your overall quality of life, or it could leave you feeling frustrated, feeling overwhelmed during the renovation. Sometimes in the worst case scenario, some renovations end up coming to a complete halt and things have to be either redesigned or different contractors have to be come in. There's just a lot of implications that go into, like you said, hiring a trusted partner.
Because when we hear about that, take 3 quotes typically and maybe choose the middle one, or if you can afford, take the high one. You don't know if you're going to be taken advantage of, but I think you should look into the process of how things are organized and explained to you, because you might as well get 3 quotes that are not relevant to your projects if you don't go in details. Plus, we're talking about maybe initial quotes. Do you do it before designs? Do you do it before selection? Usually, if you have an initial offer, it should be a range of looking what you want to do and obtain. And then you can refine depending on the design you choose and the selections you made. Because, I'm not going to get in the details right now, but you can probably have a very simple bathroom redone for 25,000-30,000, but you can also really splurge and go like to the hundred of thousands.
And we're talking in Swiss francs.
Yeah.
This is contextually based in Geneva, Switzerland.
Yeah. So talking about the quotes, so some people like really attach their first impression on the first number. And you're talking about 3 quotes. Sometimes like people like think they should have like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But like what is going to make the difference? It's going to be like the 5,000 over like your 200,000 renovation. What is going to make the difference? Really, it's going to be how the process is going to be guiding your whole renovation. So that starts, I feel, from how it's laid out and organized.
And that's a good point. I think for your explanation is it's all inclusive, but for those of us who just need this to be broken down, clearly, like what should I be doing? What am I actually doing in the quote, comparing quote, especially in this day and age, you can get a lot of information online. AI, ChatGPT, it's easy to find overall material costs.
Correct.
Even fair market labor. You could ask ChatGPT to create you a quote for all that you want to get done. And I think that the point that you bring up is the planning is what we should really be talking about here. When you look at a quote, Can you understand if the contractor has broken down who's going to be project managing, how much the project management is going to cost? Because project management
If there's
is,
any project
if there's
management
any,
done.
because if it's not in the quote, one, this is your opportunity to ask your contractor. So can we talk about project management? How does that look? Who will be serving who will be not serving?
Yeah, surveying the site, like doing site coordination, doing the daily or weekly updates and checking all the important steps.
And if
Yeah.
you don't ask, then I would say it would be safe to assume that it's not included.
Hmm.
It's then at this point, perhaps it's just an exchange of labor and somebody is going to have to do it.
Hmm.
And so this is where things I think get really important in comparing quotes, because the success of your project, the ease at which your project will flow, the relevance of what you've been quoted based on the actual feasibility of your project is going to be determined in the planning. And that comes at a cost. And if it's not being discussed, then it's not being transparently laid out. And some contractors, maybe they put it in their margins. That's understandable. And then at that point, maybe when you bring that up to your contractor, they will explain to you, well, that is included in our service and that is a reflection of our prices. And so then you can check that off. But if that is not even being brought up, that's a red flag.
Yes, because also that brings to a lot of frustration, like financially, but also logistically. Because if you don't have like a defined timeline, or we work with, let's say you going with a project manager or an architect who doesn't have really their favorite companies and doesn't do a sequencing that's well organized, you might have them hire this company for this and then have the lag time, have the second one give you a delay, and so on and so on. So you might have a project that could take 2 months and that ends up taking 4 or 6, which is not what you want to happen if you live in the space or take time off to be away from the space, or maybe rent another space because you're doing a total a remodel, a big rehaul of your whole house or apartment. So these are important steps.
Mm-hmm.
So, some examples I've seen in bigger scales, but that could be mirrored in lower residential scale, because that impacts your direct quality of life. Let's say like there was a whole building that was being remodeled, renovated, and then there was a general contractor that was hired, got the contract, was actually really good at what they're doing, but had no clue of how to sequence intelligently and be efficient. So midway down the project, they were 6 months behind. And what happened, so that would cost a lot of money for the owner and a lot of delay for like re-rent, etc. So what they ended up doing is hire outside company to project manage, because that contractor that didn't have project management. So in the end, the 6 months were reduced to 2.5 months to completion. So they spend extra from the midpoint, but in the end, they save time and money because they got the project wrapped up at a faster pace because it was done efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So we can mirror that to like you're redoing your apartment or your house. Do you want your bathroom to be done in 2 weeks efficiently? Do you have the time to have it done in a wider frame? It's also the question to ask. Or like, do you just work with the flow and nobody's really giving you the accountable responses you want? And it might take up to like 3, 4, 6 months. So that's the important phase of considering who's managing the project and how efficiently it's done.
And in that example lies an argument against just comparing line quotes. One, you don't know if you're comparing apples to apples. And two, is it really a game, for lack of a better term, of comparing quotes, or really knowing the right questions to be asking when you're about to embark on a relationship? And in some cases, this could be a 6-month long relationship. There's far more important elements to be considering. You know, the communication, the way that it's going to be presented. Some contractors now they can use online applications that as a client, you in real time see what's going on. You know what to be expecting coming up in the sequencing, and you can be following along. There are contractors who will be able to inform you so much so that you start feeling like an expert of your own renovation, which should be the goal. You are hugely implicated in whether or not you want to be involved in the design. And I think design is what we should talk about next. But
Yeah.
you just your overall understanding is going to give you where, when we talk about peace of mind, you're going to get it in that.
Exactly. I think it's you reach you raise a really good point here. The communication when it starts needs to be constant or at least agreed on. Like we're not available 24/7, but sometimes people would get a first offer and they don't hear from the contractor for like 1 to 2 months. It's like, isn't it a red flag already? And then like, oh, these were well priced, but I couldn't get a hold of them for 2 months. I'm like, can you imagine if that happens while your construction is going on?
Or when time sensitive decisions need to be.
Exactly. So not that we're available at midnight, like we sleep like everybody else, and we need to cut off technology.
Ish.
Yeah, but it depends like the service you offer as well. But yeah, be aware of the red flags of people throwing you like good prices that you get hooked on. So first, are they going to follow up on the communication as they should? Do they have the project management skill? They're like just, as we say, flying by the seam of the pants because they're giving good prices to get a lot of volume, and in the
Do
end,
the prices anticipate also complications that
that's
could
the other thing.
arise?
Do they do prices to be attractive? And then when you make your selection, you will have low grade renovation, or your selections are going to be really limited to lower end quality. It's all things to be taken into account. You might compare to, oh, these guys are way higher, but do they anticipate all what you're going to spend and allow you to choose better materials? Because it's really hard at the beginning, so you should be really curious as to, are you pricing that based on your assumption that are like kind of low grade, and then as we work the details, the quote might take 20, 30, sometimes we see 50% up. So yeah, you choose that first contractor and the price is multiplied by 1.5.
Which is why it's sometimes good to, not sometimes, why many contractors, and ourselves included, have structured your process, the way that you work, in phases so that you're never fully locked into a fee and that there's room for design.
Exactly, and that's if we can summarize, maybe that's one question you can ask. Oh, is your price based on like general assumption and it's most likely to go up? And people are gonna be probably defensive if that's the case, or is it a range that we can work around and there's gonna be selection? Because that's what we like to do. Maybe give you a little higher price than the first baiters, and then we can work
Baiters.
or like so get a bait on the low price,
Okay.
and then but then we try to think about everything because there's going to be many unknowns as to what you're going to choose. And then if the design is not refined, how it's going to be impacting the budget. So that's why we start with a range. And if you're comfortable with that budget, we work with that budget and eventually maybe bring it down.
Yeah, and because it's such an emotionally driven decision-making process, that is where I truly, I try to educate potential clients that don't just fall under your own understanding of comparing prices, because there's going to be other things at play. And you might have a really great contractor who looks you in the eye, can make you really great promises. Is very well spoken, but does that implicate their credibility in problem solving, in anticipating, in feasibility, in sequencing, in on-site supervision, in communication amongst the trades, communication back and forth with the client? There's just so many things that will make or break the success and the investment that you anticipate for your project, that goes beyond just trusting the comparing of quotes
Yeah.
and your emotional feeling.
And also, like, talking about emotion, like, how would you feel when you feel the trust with somebody and you have been hooked on the initial lower price, and the contractor presented really well, but as you work the details, you realize that what you wanted will cost you 30% more. Then you're like, maybe I should have gone with the other guys who presented that right off the bat. And then you're hooked with somebody.
Transparently.
So then your emotion, you feel like you feel the break of the trust, you feel frustration, you feel like taken advantage of. And so when you're middle of a project, or you already signed a pre-construction agreement, then you feel like you're stuck. And so that's what you don't want. You want to feel clarity from the beginning, and then feel like it's a continuation of trust from the start to the finish line.
What's that saying that you always say? Like this, you could have afford if you're going to end up having to pay for it in the end, and it meets the same as the high quote, then you could have paid for all the things at the beginning. I'm brutalizing that quote,
Yeah.
but do you remember what it is? Where it's like,
Well, it's basically there's a price tag, but there's a cost. So it's like if you invest like at a low price, and maybe you're lucky, and it's awesome for everybody. If you get a low price and good quality, and the price stays the same, but there's a price and there's a cost of it. So if you have a low price, that then there's added costs. It ended up cutting, like, overall cost is much higher than having an initial price that give you the longevity and quality along the line. So there's the price tag and there's the overall cost. So if I rephrase, there might be a low price but high cost along the line that ends up here, or there's a higher price to start with that gives you what you want at the initial offer. So see what if there's even costs that come along after you've chosen.
yeah, okay.
Hmm.
So basically, you could get a ChatGPT quote, and then you could go into the second phase on your own
Hmm.
understanding and just put yourself in a position where you start interviewing your contractors for who could come to the site
Hmm.
and point out all the constraints that your site already
Hmm.
poses, the feasibility, where you might want to hold back money on, like where you could save money on, and the areas that you might actually need more money for. So
Yeah.
this is more of what is going to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So you can have an idea of the global budget, and your contractor should be able to justify why it would be higher or lower, like where you can, like, save costs if you wanted, like, to have a definite budget, or where you can splurge depending on what you express. So everything should be
Mhm.
justifiable. And if people don't have the ways to justify, maybe they don't have the expertise. So that's also where you should challenge your contractor to, like, define all the steps.
And I get the fear related because it is an industry where there are a lot of scenarios in Geneva alone. We know
Hmm.
that there's a lot of people who will go out of business and then they'll start up again, and there's not really a lot of implications that happen. So
But yeah,
there's a
there.
lot of stress
Mhm.
involved in that alone, and often this is not your day job, so it does feel very overwhelming
Hmm.
to even know where to begin. But I think that that's actually what we should be talking more about, is how to be able to measure if your contractor is somebody that you can have these transparent and clear, comprehensive um, discussions with. Like, find the contractor who says, I'm not trying to, you're not going to give me your budget and I'm just going to try and spend your whole budget. It's like, what do you want? Is your space feasible? How can we save you money? How can we stay within your budget range? How can we make everything happen smoothly and close to what it is that you're hoping to invest in?
Hmm.
Before we get into like continuing going down that, maybe we should talk about design, because I think that this is an important part also.
Yeah, but you raise a good point about the having a transparent budget, because it's it's not what we can spend to the last dime. It's what we can do to make your dream happen with the number you have. You have it at your disposition. If you have a maximum budget, it's not like, can we spend all that money? It's like, what can we do to serve you best? Like paying you in the finished product you have and paying us, giving you the best service to make it happen. So that's the thing. I think it's so in that budget, sharing a number is not making it, an easy low fruit to grab. It is to be able to advise you the best for what you want to do.
Hmm.
Because if we compare that to something we can easily understand, when you shop for a car, you must have a budget. It's like it's not the same if you're gonna shop for a Dacia or a Volvo or a Porsche. It's gonna be very different numbers, but they're all cars. They're gonna drive you somewhere, but the
Mm.
comfort and the service is gonna be different. So same as I was talking about a bathroom. You want a very standard bathroom. We can do it for a lower budget. You want to start putting marble on the walls or in your shower. It's gonna be a definitely higher budget.
It's a good segue that you've just given is the car and the experience, because I think that that's for design.
Yeah.
So another thing that we should be looking for and discussing is design included.
Mhm.
And I think there are contractors, and we can offer this as well, that there are clients that are capable and they've maybe done previous renovations. They have a really solid idea there. It's a passion project of theirs to do their own designs. And there's ways that you can work with the contractor. You can do 3D renderings to make sure that everybody's on the same page. But that does come at a cost. Whether you're going to pay an interior designer, like a design professional or an architect, it's going to come at a cost of somebody's time and somebody's thought that goes into it.
Mhm.
I'm from the understanding or the personal belief that I think everybody should have a, not a handsome, but some form of budget for design. I think that projects, especially this is an investment. Real estate is an investment.
Mhm.
And it's not, if your project's not just a an investment, um, an asset, a real estate asset that you rent out, it's a personal asset that you're going to enjoy,
Mhm.
that is going to directly impact your quality of life, your family's quality of life. But if designed correctly, it could durably give you increased return on your
Yeah.
investment. And I think architects and interior designs are professionals for a reason. We have the architects that we work with. I just personally believe that those are the projects. No offense to our clients who have done their own projects, their own design, because I think some of them have done knock it out of the park.
Sometimes even better, but like
Sometimes even
because of the experience
because
and
of the
and like you were talking about the cost because like they spend the experience in the previous projects or they spend a lot of time in the shops or on Pinterest or like it's also thinking time,
thinking
you
time.
when you pay somebody for a service, whether it's an architect or whoever's like going to manage, you paying for their brain time, you're paying for their organization time, like all this come at a cost. So maybe those clients have spent a lot of their time because it's a passion and they have the time to do it. Not everybody has this
Yeah.
time, nor the imagination or the experience.
So yes, that is what it is. It's like it is collaboration
Mhm.
that you're paying for, and the more thinking brains collaborating together, it across every industry, those are the projects that are the most successful.
Mhm.
And so anyways, I just wanted to make a point about architects and interior
Uh-huh.
designers, that I feel like what they infuse into projects is not just decoration or the colors of the walls or the materials that are chosen. It's how the light enters, how the space functions and flows.
Mhm.
And these are things that directly impact the value
Mhm.
that people, future buyers, will be impacted by.
Yeah.
So an architect can inform really great material that will outstand the durability of
Mhm.
30 years. And this is something I like to say is, if you feel like 5,000, 10,000 in design fees feels a lot, think about how long you will be living in this space.
Yeah, if you divide that by
Divide
the amount of like, if you have a bathroom that you're gonna love for the next 20 years, divide that 5 to 10,000 over like a daily
daily.
a daily investment, that you're looking at something really minimal, right? So
Yeah. And then it becomes, if it's well designed, the flow of the space,
Mhm.
the optimizing of your real estate, then it becomes just aesthetic upgrades later on. So if
Yeah.
it's a property that your kids will one day inherit, they can just put new modern tile
Mhm.
at that point, or when you're going
And
to sell it.
keep all the fixtures and amenities where they are, just like do like use it like a surface or aesthetic upgrade. Yeah.
So bringing it back to the purpose of this discussion, when you're looking at a budget or when you're coming up with an idea, make sure that you have a healthy, that was the word I was looking for earlier, not a handsome, but if you have the capacity for handsome, there are architects that we work with that I just think it will change your life. Anyways, so if you have healthy or handsome capacity, also think about dividing it over the years that you're going to be in the space, because maybe it's not as big as the 10,000 investment, and they're not always 10,000
Yeah,
investment, but
dividing or maybe staging. You have a big project, and I'm throwing numbers here. Yeah, like this whole project is like 300 to 400,000 francs, but one point is really one item is really important, and you might not have that whole investment ready yet. So what if you divide it in phase, and like this year we'll do this because we want to splurge on that master bedroom, that bathroom, that kitchen. So maybe we can splurge a little bit and we'll save the next steps for the following year. That's also an intelligent way of sequencing your own phases of renovation.
so that you get the most of what you want to make
Mhm.
happen, but you just have to, okay.
Yeah.
And this brings up another point. Maybe we'll do this for a further discussion, or we can include it here. But when we talk about architects or interior designers and contractors, there is also a special sauce to at what point you bring them both together. So if you're an independent client and you're dealing with your architect and you're going to get plans and then you're going to go and take bids for a contractor, do you have we have lots to say on this, but
Well, long story short, I would like make a point of finding somebody who's already collaborating together, in the sense that that's where you're gonna have less delays, a better collaboration from the start. Because like the amount of times we bring the expertise from two sides, from the design architectural point of view and the on-site and engineering point of view, when they meet together, that's where we can solve issues from the get-go. So let's say there's a drop ceiling that's been planned, but there's limitation that beyond design that we raise, and we have to review it. It's way better to review it early than plan everything, make the request for proposals, and then 3 months down the road we realize the design has to be reviewed.
mm,
That's really emotionally, it's really dragging, because you need to reset back and maybe increase your design fees, increase all the contracting fees. So that's where, like, I think the early involvement is really important, when you have a team architect and contractor who work together like from the beginning.
okay.
So that ties up your delays and your budget, because they usually go together. Like the more time everybody spends, whether the companies, the contractors, and the architects spend on the project, the more it's going to cost. So like make your design early, and get all your selections and choices early, so you can actually work in confidence with your choices.
Your selections early.
Well, if you choose your design, then you can have allowances for your selections, like the earliest possible. Because let's say you rework you had a design, and you realize it's not optimal for what you want to do, or it makes the budget explode, then delays drag. You need to rework the design, and then you need to maybe readjust your choices. So the earlier design and everything is tied up, with between everybody, the earlier you can choose all your selection and get the project going.
Because 80% of, and this is, I'm quoting research that we've looked into to support our argument, but 80% of the success of projects is in the planning.
Mhm. And the more tight of a timeline you get, the harder it gets. So let's say you live in your space, you want to redo your bathroom and your kitchen. um, we can usually make it happen. Let's say you have these two pretty hardworking spaces of your home. If you don't have a secondary kitchen or a bathroom, you'll need to be out of your space for probably like 3 weeks to a month minimum, depending on the remodel. Like, not getting into the details, but even that to happen in that short time of a window, you need to have a whole selection and organization done before. So if we come in
For
with,
material
yeah,
delays, for
materials delays like trade alignments, because it's not like we're gonna wait for the plumber and we're gonna wait for the electrician. Everybody's gonna have to be super reactive and prepared. And
so time is money.
yeah, these slots
It
will have
is.
to be like reserved. So you also have to have teams that are trusting and are responding to you, which sometimes, this quick segue, like when architect work with like some companies, they favor, but these companies like give them their own delays. You might have lags of days and weeks between each trade comes and comes back. So your 3 weeks might become 2 months. Can you afford that?
Yeah, and this is real cost implications.
Hmm.
And
Like cost and
in comparing
organization, family
budgets,
organization. Let's say like, okay, you're planning this big reno and you're going away in the summer for a month and a half. And what if like the delay like doubles? Then in your 3 months and you have to shuffle and either live in a construction site or find a temporary accommodation. That's not what you want. So coming back and closing the gap, the organization beforehand is really important to keep the budget and the delays on track.
and just for those who might be new to Geneva, expats, it's a community with a lot of international um, citizens. What do you residents? Like what we know, Swiss traditionally, there's architectural firms that have in-house direction de travaux. This is what it's called here, or like construction management.
Mhm.
Does it also exist? What is the going way for people to get architect contractors? Are there entreprises générales that have their own in-house architects? What are the options available for
Well, I would say either you find a contractor who has that in house, which is probably the best for like the better
it has what in-house?
the management of work in house.
So
Probably,
direction de travaux.
yeah. So they have all that in house. Then you can be assured that it is a well-oiled project that goes smoothly.
Is
Over.
that, sorry to interrupt, but is that different? Because I, as a North American, I'm a little bit confused to the entreprise générale. I assume that that's a contracting company.
Yeah.
And in North America, often, or not often, we assume that a contractor is also going to be managing the construction
Mhm.
or has in-house uh, site supervisors.
That's a blurred part in Geneva, because many have like the general contractor, entreprise générale hats, but not everybody is gonna have with a project management software or like feedback, or they will take care of everything, but you're not sure it will be organized in a better fashion.
So another thing in
So
comparing quotes, you might want to
that's the
ask,
thing.
what is the software
Yeah,
communication?
do you have a software communication? Do you have a schedule? Is your schedule updated? Can I see it online? Do you have somebody coming on site every day? How do you manage your trades? What's your communication process? So these are really important points, because you might find people that are extremely professional, like that will surprise you. But on the other hand, you might have people who are doing it all, but in a shuffling way that nobody can follow and understand. So that's where you should be able to also question on how the management is done, and laid back to the customer.
And so if you haven't asked your proposal bid
Mhm.
or it's not outlined transparently,
Mhm.
it can we assume that sometimes I know the answer, but I'm just can we assume that sometimes this role will then fall on the client to manage Do you see it happen?
That's what like I met somebody recently that who said they were doing a fireman job. That most of their when they started, it's a big project management company for more like building whole buildings and development. And he was saying that they started and all they were doing was firemen, like because they were
Putting out fires.
putting out fires all the time. And that's what we find when project management is not done properly, clients start to get involved and try to like move the company's
Yes.
different contractors quicker and because they realize it's not properly managed. Architects do the same too, or they have to correct mistakes after because
Not all
there's a,
architects. There are
no
definitely
architects, but
some architects that are very well versed,
exactly.
but we do
Hmm.
see.
Or because they didn't get the proper feedback from the companies they were hiring, so then they need to put out fires, correct mistakes after the fact, which once again delays and time is money. Rework also costs money, so you want to make sure maybe you had that higher level contractors that you were on the fence because they were a little bit more expensive, but in the end they would have cost you more because
Mhm.
going back to that discussion, all the corrections and delays will end up adding, and that's not the compound you want. You want compound interest on goodness of your project, not compound interest
On
on
clarity of your project,
yeah, and you don't want the mistakes to accumulate.
the compound interest on the mistakes
Hmm.
accumulating.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you are going the route of entreprise générale, make sure that you have direction de travaux either in-house or that you bring this up, like who is going to be managing the construction and how do you relay with the design team? How do you have in-house design team? Can I get my own design, and how early can I get you both conversing, and what does the communication look like that way? Because some of the software, the communication tools software, can have all of your stakeholders involved, and
Mhm.
the communication can be housed. We use JobTread.
Yeah.
There's
And
other
and
versions.
in there, like we can center every information. So any hard decisions will be tracked with like messages, approvals. We can track the scope of the whole project. Anything there's a change, we can send a change order that's going to be approved by the client. So what we want is transparency from the beginning, and even from the design, the architect plans or the renderings will be stored into the software, so everything would be stored in one place, so we're not losing the information. We know, like, we're at this day of like we have phone calls and texts and WhatsApp and emails, and so yeah, that's funny to like see that image, but in the end information is lost this way. So anything important, the site visits, the daily pictures, or if there's measurements we're including, that could be working there, and everything basically is archived in one place.
Hmm. Yeah, this is really good. It's also making me think that maybe we can make a checklist.
Hmm.
So if if we can summarize this whole little talk,
Hmm.
don't just compare budgets for line numbers. Don't go on your
Make sure
emotions.
those budgets are not the minimum one to get you, and then be like maybe double sometimes.
Yeah, get go ask further up the road questions. Who's going to be managing the site? Get your contractor to to the site and ask them questions, and see the way that they think.
Hmm.
Uh, it is not uncommon for people who are running a solid business to charge for a on-site consultation. We
Hmm.
do. We can
Hmm.
give ballpark estimates, but we definitely, when we go to on-sites, we are going to be charging for our time and our expertise. That's just,
Because
nobody does anything for free,
it's
and we want
expert
to get what we
advice.
pay for.
Because if you think about it, like if people do, and there's many in the, like it's a kind of a trend in the industry, like to do the free quotes and like free visit, and some people manage it well. But when you think about it, if you go around Geneva and Riyadh, like do they give free quotes all the time? When do you have time to actually give expert opinion? Or that will have to be reflected on the price on the persons who are selecting you too.
What do you mean?
Well, if you do it like for free to everybody, then at this point, like all this time you're spending giving information for free will have to be reflected on the people who are selecting you. So somehow like, you're paying yourself back like this. Nobody works for free.
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
or the comment we get sometimes is, well, why do you charge for it when other people don't? And it's simple. We don't compare ourselves to companies who are not valuing their expert and time.
mhm.
Time is money. And
Uh,
500 for a feasibility, 500 to 1,000 for an on-site consultation is really nothing in comparison to what you stand to gain or lose.
mhm. And in the end, yes, we charge for it to give advice when people, not sure, but that fee is basically becoming free thereafter because
Mm.
if we sign a contract together, we deduct it from the last invoice. So basically, you have expertise, you do whatever you want with it. Should you decide not to go ahead, go with somebody else, then you got our expertise. And if you go with us, like that becomes a free. So it's just to honor everybody's time.
Mhm.